Now, today we are going to be discussing growth hormone. Growth hormone is very potent in your body and it reacts very heavily to the actions you do throughout your day. And we are going to be going through specific actions you can do to significantly increase your levels of growth hormone. I believe this is one of the essential things to get to the top 1% inside of the gym, because inside of the gym, nobody is focusing on growth hormone. Everybody is focusing on testosterone. So this is going to give you that edge you have been looking for. If you are optimizing your testosterone and optimizing your growth hormone, then you will have massive benefits and likely improve faster than you ever thought you could in your life. But first, I want you to understand what exactly the main sources that change your levels of growth hormone are, so you could be ready to actually react throughout your day to what fits your life best. So we will go through that first, and then we will go through how exactly growth hormone works, what it's going to be helping, because it will help any one of you, no matter what your age is. It'll make you taller, it'll help with your metabolism, it'll help with whatever you need. So let's first get into its main sources of fluctuation. The first main source is heat. When your body heats up, this is when your body gets the biggest release of growth hormone. There are many ways we can artificially increase our heat through specific methods. But the caveat to this is that you can't have a high level of heat for too long. Most activities that increase your body heat after a long period of time also increase your levels of cortisol. Now, when this occurs, when you start getting that release of cortisol, the growth hormone release no longer occurs and you no longer get that benefit from whatever the heat-inducing activity was. So we need to plan our day very specifically, or plan these things at specific times to be able to optimize our levels of growth hormone. Now, I'll be going through how I implement these into my schedule without them being an inconvenience. So you could either just copy my schedule or adjust it slightly to however it fits you best. Next is blood glucose. Having a higher level of blood glucose prevents this release of growth hormone when you do these activities. These natural activities that very potently increase your growth hormone have the one exception: if you have high blood glucose at the time, you won't get the significant benefit. The next thing is exercise. I'll be discussing exercise more in specific later, but exercise is one of those very potent stimuluses that does increase your body heat and does have other reasons that it increases your growth hormone. And then finally, you need low levels of fatty acids. High levels of fatty acids are similar to high blood glucose. It has the same effect of not allowing the growth hormone release. Now, real quick, this isn't going to impact the amount of growth hormone you have, but it'll impact the effect of growth hormone. Now, you need to have a very significant bioavailability of amino acids, which I'll also discuss later. But what amino acids do is they go to your muscles to build proteins. Now, what happens from growth hormone is in your liver, you create IGF-1, or it signals to create IGF-1. IGF-1 tells your muscles to build proteins. It's basically the instructions. It sends to your muscles, hey, we need more proteins, let's build proteins. This is why growth hormone increases muscle mass, even if you aren't working out anymore. Now, your muscles know to build proteins. Your muscles know they need to build muscle. And what it does is it says, hey, we need amino acids. Now, your growth hormone is actually what opens up the pathways to send the amino acids into your muscles. So this works hand in hand. You need high levels of amino acids if you want to see the benefits of growth hormone. Now, what is growth hormone? Growth hormone is the main factor for your metabolism. Now, many people act like your metabolism declining is a gradual, steady thing that happens from the time when you turn 20 all the way until you die. You constantly have a declining metabolism. That's why you're getting fat. and that's not exactly how it works. Now, like I said, the main factor is growth hormone. Now, growth hormone only changes very much at one specific time throughout your life, and that's between 30 and 40. It drops 2 to 3 times. So that's the only major change in your metabolism throughout your life. With this being said, for those younger individuals below 30, you could use this information to understand that unless you are having an unhealthy life or changing your lifestyle, your recovery inside of the gym does not change until you are 30, despite what many say. You at 15 are going to be recovering the same amount as you at 30, and then it's going to decrease. And the same thing after 40. After 40, your metabolism is going to change very slightly. There's not going to be much change. But the thing is, even though it's dropped, we could still use the specific benefits to boost our metabolism. The next benefit of growth hormone is thicker bones. There is no downside to having thicker bones. Your bones are less likely to break as you age. They're going to help you move things. Higher levels of bone density help your body support more muscle mass, etc. There's many benefits to thicker bones, no downsides. It'll help you bulk with mostly muscle gain. Now, when you're bulking with lower levels of growth hormone, you're not getting as much amino acids sent to your muscles. So you're not going to be putting on as much muscle compared to fat. When you have higher levels of growth hormone, your bulk is going to become much more muscle than fat, and you're going to feel like you could bulk forever without really getting fat. The next thing it impacts is height. It's basically the only thing you can do to optimize your height while you are growing, optimize your growth hormone, and you are going to grow the tallest you could possibly be. When you go into the doctor and they tell you you're going to be a range of height, you're going to be at the top range of that. You're going to be the top height they say if you perfectly optimize your growth hormone. It doesn't have much to do with anything else. They tell you to eat a healthy diet. And well, the main part of a healthy diet is not having high levels of sugar, and sugar spikes your blood glucose, thus stunting your growth hormone. So if you want to grow to the tallest you can be, this is a good guide for you. And next is it increases the amount of REM sleep you get. If you're a really light sleeper, if you don't dream, if you're not feeling like you get very good sleep, then optimizing your growth hormone levels may help with this. People seem to think that growth hormone only impacts your muscles and your body, but not your brain. Well, growth hormone actually impacts your brain a good amount. It increases your memory, allows your brain to develop new neurogenic pathways. It helps with your long-term brain health, so your brain doesn't go downhill over time because you are developing these new pathways. And then finally, before I get into the specific tips, I want to say it works really well with high testosterone. The two of them work hand in hand because if you have more testosterone binded to androgen receptors, signaling to your body you need more muscle, then you're going to need or want high levels of growth hormone. Therefore, you could send to those muscles more amino acids, actually build the muscle more because your body is asking for it and you have the available supplies. Now, my first tip is sleep. And every time I bring up sleep, people get offended in the comments or bothered by the fact that I say you need to sleep at the exact same time every single night. And there's a very unique part about growth hormone that's going to show you why exactly you need this if you want any good levels of growth hormone circulating through your body. Now, the first stage of sleep you go into is slow wave sleep. If you have a ring, you could check the amount of slow wave sleep you're getting. In slow wave sleep, your brain is put into a state of delta waves. When your brain is in a state of delta waves, this is when your body produces the most growth hormone. Now, the thing about growth hormone is naturally there's a singular time where you have a big release of growth hormone throughout the day. And that is during your first hour of sleep. During this first hour, you will get 400 to 500% of your average growth hormone release throughout the day or throughout the rest of your sleeping period. Now, the thing about this is your circadian rhythm, which I have discussed in many videos. Your circadian rhythm is the thing in your body that times exactly when things are occurring. Now, one of the things your circadian rhythm predicts is when you're going to be asleep and when you're going to be in bed for this first hour. So if you normally go to bed at 10 p.m., it's going to expect that you are asleep at 10 p.m. Now, an hour later, if you are not asleep, your body just won't get this release of growth hormone at all. There is nothing you could do to change this. Once you miss this period because of your circadian rhythm, it is missed, it won't change. So the people with inconsistent sleep schedules, they are likely only getting their main release of growth hormone only 50% of the time. If you're jumping an hour back and forth, 2 hours forward, 3 hours back, 4 hours forward, you're not going to get this release. It just simply does not occur if you aren't going to bed at the same time. So simply go to bed at the same time. Now, the next thing is fasting. There's a lot of misinformation that isn't backed by any studies that I could find saying, oh, fasting increases your growth hormone by 2,000%. Now, it's unfortunately not that crazy of an increase, but it is a very significant increase. Now, when you are fasting, your body releases ghrelin, which makes you hungry. Ghrelin binds to the same receptor that releases growth hormone. Now, you have this other hormone in your body called growth hormone releasing hormone. And ghrelin acts the exact same as growth hormone releasing hormone. So if you have ghrelin binding to these receptors, then you're going to get a good increase in your levels of growth hormone. Now, what I could find from studies is specifically while you are awake, because this is the period of time where your ghrelin's going to be released. While you are awake, there is a doubling of the amount of growth hormone being released from these receptors. Now, how long exactly should you fast for? Now, the optimal amount of time eating is between an 8-hour window. I wouldn't recommend going anywhere less than 8 hours because there are actually negatives of fasting too long. On average, it stunts other things in your body. But the best recommendation I have for you is to sit in an 8-hour window and don't eat within 2 hours of bed, because remember earlier I mentioned that blood glucose stunts this release of growth hormone. When you eat within 2 hours of bed, you're going to have a higher level of blood glucose. Therefore, you won't get this release at the peak time of your day. The next thing is exercise. There's specific things you need to implement while you are exercising to make this as potent as possible. But when you exercise, there's a 300 to 500% increase in your levels of growth hormone. And that same amount of increase is also occurring that same night when you go to bed. So this release is specifically with more intense resistance training. What this means is specifically difficult weightlifting, calisthenics, whatever you enjoy doing inside the gym. That is what I am talking about. I am not discussing running. Running, from what I could find, is not going to have nearly as potent of an effect as resistance training. Now, when you train, you need to have a 10-minute warm-up. Like I mentioned earlier, the biggest response to a growth hormone release is body heat. So before your exercise, you are trying to get your body as hot as possible. So what I recommend doing, and what I do specifically, is throwing on a thick sweatshirt every single time and go on the treadmill for 10 minutes before you work out. You're going to notice that you start sweating, you get a little bit hot just from heat, and that is the sign that you are warm enough to start your workout to get the most potent release of growth hormone. Now, in the studies, the best duration for your exercise was 60 minutes. And the thing is, there are ways that they also found to allow you to increase this amount of time without blunting the amount of growth hormone release afterwards. If you work out for too long, then your cortisol levels are going to spike and you're not going to get as potent of an increase. So the first way to still allow this release to occur when your exercise is longer than an hour and not to blunt it is by doing cortisol releasing activities that lower your baseline level of cortisol throughout the day or after this workout. Now, I'm going to make a whole guide on reducing your levels of cortisol at the right times because, believe it or not, at certain times, high levels of cortisol is actually important. But that's another topic. I'll make a whole video on that because I don't have time to go into that. But simply reduce your cortisol. And the next thing you can do is do something that reduces your body temperature immediately after your workout. Now, I'm not saying take cold showers. Do not take cold showers. Those actually blunt muscle growth. Now, what I am saying is do something such as a lukewarm shower or a cool shower. Something that makes you slightly uncomfortable but doesn't make you cold. Something that you want to be in for 5 minutes max, and then it starts getting, I want to get out. That's about the right temperature of the water. Anything else you could think of that reduces your body temperature is also a good thing to do post-workout. Now, I know many people like eating Rice Krispie treats or sugars mid-workout or before workout. And what I'm going to say is be careful about that. You could still have some sugars, but be careful about high amounts. I recommend having high amounts long before the workout. So 2 to 4 hours before your workout, that's when you should carb up or use sugars to fuel your workout. Because if you have these sugars right before or during your workout, it is going to stunt the growth hormone release. The next thing I have on the list is the sauna. I've mentioned heat, and once again, it is coming up, and this is the most potent thing you can do for your growth hormone. It does not increase your testosterone. It's a big misconception. I actually recommend using something to keep your balls cool. I've mentioned that a few times. But how exactly should you implement the sauna? Because there's a specific protocol that they've used in the studies and one specific thing that works the best. This specific thing increases your growth hormone by 1,600%. That's 16 times your level of growth hormone just by using the sauna. And I recommend you implement this on your rest days because 1, it's a longer period of time, and 2, you don't get as big of a release if you're doing it every single day. The more you do it, or if you do it too frequently, you won't get this massive increase. So what I am doing is implementing it on every one of my rest days at the same time of my workout. And you have to remember what exactly we are doing with growth hormone. Growth hormone is allowing the amino acids to reach your muscles. So you're increasing your muscle recovery capabilities. So you're going to go back to the gym the next day and you're going to feel much more recovered than if you never optimized your growth hormone. Now, the specific protocol you are doing for the sauna is 20 minutes in the sauna, 30 minutes out. You need to let your body fully cool off, and then 20 more minutes in the sauna. So that's a total of 40 minutes in, 30 minutes out. And what I will mention to people wondering about temperature is be very careful with increasing the temperature too much because these long periods of time could damage your brain if your body isn't accustomed to it. So I recommend to make these changes slowly and not to jump straight into this. But the higher the temperature is, the better. The higher the temperature is, the closer to the 1,600% increase you will get. And possibly, if you go above the temperature they used in the study, there is a chance you will get larger than a 1,600% increase. Next thing I won't talk about too much is alcohol. Alcohol increases fatty acid levels, and like I said, we want low levels of fatty acid. So alcohol does not help with growth hormone. It actually stunts it, and once again, another reason to limit your alcohol intake. Now I'm going to get onto the supplements. This first supplement you should take before bed or before an exercise, and this is arginine. Arginine leads to a 100 to 400% increase in your levels of growth hormone. You need a lot of it, so this supplement is not optimal. This is the one supplement I recommend against because there are other ways to increase it without having to take this much. You need 3 to 9 grams of arginine, and that is a whole handful of pills, so I recommend against it. But what exactly it does is it increases blood supply, so it can help with the gym. You have more blood flow. You're going to get a better pump. You're going to be working harder. Don't take if you're having heart issues. One thing it does is it lowers your blood pressure, something I want to throw out there. But this next supplement actually works to increase arginine. And keep in mind, supplementing with arginine doesn't mean that your actual arginine levels are increasing. Just because you supplement with something doesn't actually mean it reaches the place it's supposed to. Now, this next way has been found to actually increase your levels of arginine. So I recommend taking L-citrulline. You may notice that this is in many pre-workouts, but most pre-workouts underdose this. You want to take 6,000 to 8,000 milligrams before your workout. So what this is going to do is increase your levels of arginine, giving you a crazy pump and lead to that 100 to 400% bonus increase in your levels of growth hormone during your workout. Now the next supplement is GABA. Now GABA is one of those supplements where I'm going to say recommend talking to your doctor before taking it, because if you have high levels of GABA already, it could have some negative effects, because what GABA does is it calms your body. It reduces your cortisol levels and it calms your body, relaxes it a lot more. So if you have a GABA deficiency, your body is going to constantly be in overdrive, making your body release more cortisol. You're not going to get as quality of sleep. It helps put your brain in a state of slow wave sleep. So the best time to take it is 2 hours before bed, because it's going to help with your sleep. Now in a second, I'm going to mention other things that put your brain in a state of delta waves. So these things may work hand in hand. I couldn't find anything on combining them, but on paper, my assumption is there may also be better times to take GABA if you're doing the other things to put your brain in the delta wave state where your body is producing growth hormone. Now, the specific increases for GABA was a 200% increase in your level of growth hormone if taken post-exercise. This is if your workout is longer than an hour. And then if taken before bed, GABA leads to a 400% increase in growth hormone throughout the night. This is because your body reaches a state of slow wave sleep for a much longer duration. The next thing I'm going to mention is binaural beats. Binaural beats are something people use to increase their focus by putting their brain in specific states for specific intentions. Now, this helps my productivity significantly. I notice whenever I do this, 0 distractions. My brain is locked onto the task I do. I often do this when I am reading. I do this when I am scripting videos. I do this when I am doing homework. I am a big fan of it. I find that it does change my brain state without a doubt, despite the fact that there's no non-biased studies. I wish there was more studies on this so I could present any factual information, but I am speaking from experience. This, without a doubt, puts your brain in the states that it claims it does. Now, I don't exactly use binaural beats. I use something that mimics the same idea as binaural beats, and the app I use specifically is called Brain FM. When I first heard of this, I was not a big believer in it, so I did a free trial, And then during that free trial, I realized without a doubt, yes, this does work, and went ahead and bought a subscription, despite the fact that I was biased against it. So, what I use again is Brain FM. It's not sponsored. Just throwing that out for you guys. According to what the websites claim, it puts your brain in a state of delta waves. So I could assume if you are doing your work, you put your brain in the state where the most growth hormone is released, then you're going to have higher levels of growth hormone during that time. Real quick, don't mean to go off topic, but earlier I mentioned fasting and exercise. I forgot to mention that there isn't much on exercising fasted for growth hormone or anything conclusive that I can find. But my assumption is that because ghrelin is telling your body to release growth hormone, I would assume this does stack because it's not necessarily something that releases growth hormone. It's telling your body and giving your body the ability to release growth hormone. So I'm assuming if you give your body the ability to release growth hormone and you are doing some activity that increases growth hormone, then you should get a larger increase. But that is just my assumption based off my understanding of how things work. There isn't too much information on this, so take that with a grain of salt. My next thing is to get a specific amino acid intake. Proteins, so fish, beef, eggs, lots of red meat. That's the best thing you can do to increase the amount of amino acids in your diet. I've mentioned in another video how the information saying that saturated fat increases your risk of heart disease is all biased. There's no conclusive proof. Countries with a higher saturated fat intake normally have a lower heart disease risk. So I personally am not worried about the amount of saturated fat I am getting. I eat these things because these are best for my body as far as muscle mass, as far as aging, things like that. That is why I am a big believer in intaking a lot of red meat. So if you want to increase your amino acid bioavailability, eat a lot of red meat. The next tip is to remain lower in body fat. I'm not talking about extremely lean, but I'm talking in the 12 to 15 to possibly up to 18% body fat range. Now, what scientists found is that there's a very strong link between your levels of HGH and your body fat. What they found was compared to the control group, which was a group with lower percentages of body fat, the higher body fat level group had 50% the amount of growth hormone in their body because they were higher body fat. And then also, the good thing was this isn't something you're stuck with. When they did a study on patients that they told to cut or to decrease their body fat, then their growth hormone levels significantly increased. So simply get to the proper body fat levels. Remember, perspicacity is our grindstone for success. We're lifelong learners. Keep it up, boys.